Λοιπόν, δεν έχουμε πολύ χρόνο. Έχουμε στην άλλη άκρη της γραμμής τον Daniel As. Hello, Daniel.
Hello.
Welcome to the channel. It's a privilege to have you here, really. How are you?
I'm fine.
Okay.
Just woken up.
Okay, so first of all, let's talk about your wonderful new EP. It's a Burnout. Give us a picture.
Give us a picture.
Yeah.
Well, it's something I recorded over like a 2-year period, just while I was doing other projects. And it was things that I hadn't put out before. They were just like in demo version. And then I decided to, I really was like slow in catching up with the whole idea of going online and actually selling music and putting music out there in that format and no other format. But then I suddenly saw the light and realized that was the way to go.
Yeah.
And these days, I mean, people don't really have the sort of attention span to actually listen to a whole album. It's much more instant now. So it's almost gone back to the 1950s where the single was king.
You're so right. Yeah,
so
yeah,
now,
yeah.
and I like that. I like the idea of just like 3 or 4 tracks rather than a whole album. It really appeals to me. So I thought I'd put this EP out.
And what about Flame On, Daniel? Really great track. Can you tell us some details?
Well, that really subconsciously, I didn't know when I was doing it, but it's very much a sort of, it sounds like Iggy Pop to me, like something off of Raw Power. So, and I'm a real fan of Iggy anyway, particularly that album. And it just turned out that way. I didn't really have a plan for it. I just had this riff, as always. It just comes with a riff usually, or a line of a lyric.
Yeah.
And when it was finished, it just occurred to me that it was very Iggy and the Stooges. I like to think that anyway.
Yeah, great stuff.
So, I just recorded that in somebody's garage with like a G5 and live instruments. But it was all, in somebody's garage, a friend of mine over the road.
Great track.
From where I live.
Daniel, do you really have any memories from your Athens gig here back in '83, a long time ago, of course? I was there, as a kid.
What? I do. I don't remember a lot of gigs because, I don't know, it just sort of all cancels itself out. But I have a real vivid memory of that gig. I remember that we were getting hassled by some skinheads at the front.
Yeah.
And I was having a lot of fun with that because obviously the stage was 3 or 4 feet up. And it was great to see them. They were real pissed off because we were wearing makeup and all this stuff. And I like to sort of try and neutralize that whole macho, testosterone-driven nonsense,
You're right.
It really annoys me, all that mentality. So actually to see them getting really pissed off, sort of, I found that really enjoyable.
Daniel, I didn't really believe for a second that Bauhaus was a gothic band. For me, Bauhaus was a rock and roll band, like Roxy Music, Brandy.
Peter and myself in particular were really influenced by that early Roxy Music, early Bowie, T-Rex, Iggy.
Of course.
That area of things. So that's right. I mean, this goth thing, to me, where I come from in the UK, goth is sort of an insult, really.
Yeah, I know.
Your hair's too big, you're wearing too much makeup, and you haven't got much talent, so you compensate for that with those things. And, we were a lot more than that. I mean, there's a lot of bands that came after us that sort of were imitating us, but they were just sort of had hair extensions, So,
Daniel, Peter Hook from Joy Division and New Order said to me very recently that John Peel was really one of a kind. Do you have any memories from Peel sessions with Bauhaus?
Yeah, well, the main memory was we had to record like 4 or 5 songs in about 6 hours, whereas usually you spend like 3 or 4 days on each song. But it was actually really healthy to do it that way. I mean, I remember at that time listening to other bands on the Peel sessions on the radio. We'd sit around and listen to the stuff, and it often sounded better than the albums because people didn't have time to think too much about it and overanalyze it. So there's like an urgency there, and it really shows that if you, there are times when we spent 2 years once on an album. It's like ridiculous. And I remember when we used to hear about these stories, we thought it was ridiculous, and we ended up doing it ourselves. With Love and Rockets, with Hot Trip to Heaven. I'm really proud of the album, but 2 years is ridiculous, and the urgency of those Peel sessions was really beneficial to like all the bands because you had to do 5 songs and mix them in like 6 hours. So it's a very healthy way of working.
All right, so I'm going to be honest with you, Daniel. I love Bauhaus more than any other band on the planet. So is there a plan for a reunion project or something? Yeah, no way.
Well, I get asked this about every 5 or 10 years, but it really is over now.
Yeah.
I have no feelings to do that at all. None of us do in the band. I mean, there were times when, you know, a couple of us were really into it. I mean, I've never been really into the whole reunion thing. It sort of depresses me in a way, because it's done, it's done. And it's a time capsule, and there it is. And to rehash it, particularly with Bauhaus, with, you know, the last album that we made, Go Away White, was not a fun experience. It really wasn't. We could just about stand being in the studio for like the 3 weeks we were in there. But things had moved on, and we all were in mentally in different directions, and it was a real struggle, and it was not a good experience actually recording that record. I must be honest, it wasn't. It was, we couldn't wait to get away from each other, you know. It's just, I mean, I don't know. It's not for me to say if the album's good or not. I you know, I'm not really going to say. I've got a tainted view of it because of the recording process was difficult, to put it mildly. So you know, that really did leave a bad taste in our mouth as far as the idea of actually being a band. And one thing with Bauhaus that I always say that made it even more difficult is actually we never got paid. It's like, you know, people come up and say, hey, your stuff was so different, this, that, and the other, and we never actually made any real money. And when you get to a certain age, you do need money to survive and carry on. And it is a motivator to a degree to keep going. But if you're just struggling, it's like you can earn more money being a plumber or something. It's like, you know, we never got paid. And I think that is a factor as well in the whole thing. We struggled financially the whole way through. You know, when you consider other bands that have come from that, like, you know, 9 Inch Nails, Marilyn Manson, all the stuff that sort of offshoots from that idea. And we never got those financial rewards, which I think we deserved. And it's that, you know, when we started, it was nothing to do with money. We were thrilled to do the music. It was like great, but when you've been doing it for X amount of years, you want some payback, you know. And
you're right,
you know, it was a struggle. And after so many years of doing that, and you're struggling and struggling, like financially, it's like, hey, I can't get motivated for this.
What's going on? Of course.
So, but you know, that's the price you pay for being an indie band.
Of course.
Which is a word I really hate. You know, because indie just means you're not selling many records, as far as I'm concerned. It's like, you know, I'm totally into the idea of commercial success. It's not a dirty word at all. I mean, that just means that you're appealing to a lot of people. That's it.
Okay.
So, you know.
Daniel, thank you really very much for your time. It was a privilege to have you here. We'll be in contact anyway. Okay, thank you very much for your time.
All right, thank you.
Okay, bye-bye. Take care.
Bye.